want to thank you all for coming out tonight and showing the interest in the land trust. I'm going to cover maybe some ground you're perhaps not expecting, just to paint a picture of Georgian Bay and its watershed and why it's important and why there is tax relief on ecologically significant lands and why this is such a special place and is actually a place where the Ecological Gifts Program has great relevance. Your property may be one of 20,000 acres that have been shown to be ecologically significant through our natural area conservation work, and I'll get into that later. If it is, then this seminar is probably very relevant to you. And so I'm going to take you back 30 years, some odd years ago. This is the mouth of the Moon River, and this was the start of conservation on Georgian Bay, if you can believe it. Really started in the 1840s, but by 1860, this is what our coast looked like. It was clear cut. You can see there on the right-hand shore there, that's probably our very recent clear cut because nothing has grown back up there. 505 million board feet were taken out just in 1 year on the eastern shore. Very quickly after that, at the turn of the century, there was a biological field station established at Go Home Bay and far mouth of the Go Home River. That was established to do inventories, first inventories on the Great Lakes. It was the first field station on the Great Lakes, only the third in Canada. There was one in Vancouver and one in Halifax, outside of Halifax. And this is a little photo of inside that field station. E.G. Bensley, who's second from the right on that slide, is one of the 7 university professors that started this initiative at Go Home Bay. And his work on using a freshwater aquarium, which is shown on the part of it shown on the right-hand side of the slide, hand-pumped labor by masters and PhD students. That's how hard they worked the students back in those days. So they kept that water flowing and cold. It went up to a cistern, and using that aquarium, they did spawning studies on many fish, including the smallmouth bass. And from those seminal studies, they determined that opening season cannot start the 1st of June as it had in the past, because you were basically fishing out all the nesting mothers. This season was switched to July 1st, and E.G. Bensley's credited with saving the black bass in Georgian Bay. So anyway, this fine work, you can see all the little bottles of stuff where they're putting dissected animals and plants as well in bottles to preserve, and they would take them back and study them at the university. But these inventories were the first on the Great Lakes, and they established the base for all the other inventory work that was done in Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and etc. later on. And the station lasted for 10 years, and a little over 10 years, and of course it was the First World War that brought it crashing down because all the men were off fighting overseas. A few words about why it's an important place. Georgian Bay's eastern shore has the greatest biodiversity of amphibians and reptiles in all of Canada. It beats the east and west coast, so it's very, very significant. It's has the highest concentration of coastal habitats in the Great Lakes. I'll get into why that is maybe briefly. And it's the world's largest freshwater archipelago, home to more than 1,100 species of native plants and animals. Coastal length of over 5,300 kilometers. That's because of all the islands and the fenestrated coast with all its river systems. And it has the highest density of globally and nationally rare species and vegetation communities on the Shield in Ontario. Because of all that, it has its designation, it received its designation as UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. It is a refuge for 45 species at risk. It's a refuge because they're largely gone from other parts of Ontario, and this eastern shore has a habitat that's been maintained to maintain viable species. And so why do we know, what studies have gone into making us know it's a special place? The work really started in 2001 with the Eastern Georgian Bay Coast Project, which was a joint effort by the MNR and AFNL and the NCC, and Your Land Trust was a partner on that. Spinning out of that, all that data set went into the Lake Terrestrial Conservation Blueprint, and then from that conservation blueprint, the NCC and our Land Trust did an actual area conservation plan in 2007, added more data into it, and that's why we as Land Trust know what this place is all about and know what's important to conserve. Just a couple of points on that natural area conservation plan. This is just one example of mapping of the plan. This is coastal wetlands, and you can see that different colors on this map. Those different colors are rankings of coastal wetlands based on biodiversity, habitat in the wetlands, types of species, whether they're rare or naturally rare. And so we've ranked all of these coastal wetlands. We've ranked the inland wetlands. We've ranked old growth forests. We've ranked rock barrens, believe it or not, are important for species. So all the habitats and the species on the coast are inventory, and they're being given relative importance in our conservation plan, so we know how to target our work. In summary, Georgian Bay is it's a special place, and if you look carefully at this photo here, aerial photo here, you see that it's not just the shore, this near shore archipelago here, but if you look inland here, those lake systems go all the way back into the watershed. And if you look closely here, you can see how much of this is interconnected water. Especially down here in the south, and you look up the French River area, huge amount of wetlands, huge amount of lakes. About the Land Trust in particular, we protect properties ranging in size from 2 acres up to 500 acres. This is Sandy and Ingersoll line combined. They amount to 505 acres, I believe. So we're not just after big properties like the Nature Conservancy of Canada. We're giving smaller landowners the opportunity to conserve. And we have 2 basic conservation tools. One is the conservation agreement, and the other is a donation of land, a gift of land. And protecting habitat is a gift. You're not at a seminar just listening to tax breaks. The Canadian government recognizes the importance of preserving habitat, special habitat for species at risk, other critical habitats. And because they recognize that, they're giving individuals an incentive to conserve. So the program governing this is the Ecological Gifts Program of Canada, and their tagline is a legacy for tomorrow, a tax break for today. So I'm just going to run quickly through our 2 main conservation tools. There are all sorts of nuances that we have done in the past and continue to do, variations on these themes. So this is an example of conservation easement that's happening right now. The area in red is the conservation agreement or easement parcel, and the structure there going down to in the area going down to the shore is the area where the easement is not going to apply. And it's very simple. The landowner still owns all of this land, including this portion. The whole lot remains in your ownership, but all you're doing is the red portion, with our types of easements, all you're doing is saying, we're not ever going to build on it. So giving up the right to build on this, you're agreeing to keep it in its natural state. You're not going to pollute it. You're not going to put oil drums there. You can still retain paths. You can do managed forest plans on an easement. It's a commitment to preserve the habitat and don't do anything destructive. You retain all the building rights on the non-east portions. Usually this portion will be bigger. This individual just has a use for this one area and doesn't want to use the rest, so he's made it very small, or they've made it very small. But this could be bigger, and in that portion, bigger portion, all your right building rights remain. Nothing changes. So if you're zoned SR5, those rights for SR5 remain. So anything that's in the comprehensive zoning bylaw for whatever township you're in, those rights on the part that you're not easing, they stay the same, nothing changes. Conservation easements, they traditionally in Ontario were a length of 999 years. You can now extend them in perpetuity if you want. We will do either one or, and I don't know, we haven't done any shorter easements, like 100 years, and that would be up to our board of directors to decide that kind of thing if the donor wanted to do a shorter period of time. Presumably, if you really want to protect it long term, you're going to want to go for 999 or forever. So we have very high-end appraisers. They're AACI certified appraisers. For the simple reason is that we have to, for the Ecological Gifts Program of Canada, whether it's an easement or fee simple gift or some other conservation tool, we have to submit a full narrative appraisal, and that appraisal goes to a panel of 15 at Ecological Gifts Canada. So it'll go to 1 or 2 or 3 of those 15, and then their chair also reviews that appraisal. So it's a really high bar in terms of establishing what the value of this property is. And the reason for that is that Canada Revenue Agency is then going to turn around and put a stamp of fair market value on it that you can use as a tax credit. In the recent history on easements, the appraiser we're using at the moment, who's the past president of the Canadian Institute of Appraisers, his easements are coming in at 85 to 90% of the value as if you gifted this to us. The income tax credit for this particular easement will be 90% of the outright value of the land. That's where it's coming in at. So that's an income tax credit to that donor. And then we'll talk more about that, but it's an income tax credit, so it goes directly to reduce your after-tax income tax. And you can carry that credit forward for 10 years. The capital gains will also go away by that same amount if you were to do this easement and then as soon as you did it, you transferred it to the land to an offspring or someone else, then, or even sold it, then your capital gains is reduced by that amount on transfer. Donation of vacant land. These 3 properties here outlined in black, I've only circled one of them, it's 5 acres. This property is much bigger than that, actually. It received an award of distinction from Environment Canada for it being so ecologically significant. So in a donation of land, if you donate a parcel of vacant land to us, the capital gains goes away. There's no capital gains on transfer. Usually if you transfer land, it's on your principal residence, you're going to pay capital gains on it. And there's an income tax credit for the full value of that land. And again, that income tax credit you can carry forward for 10 years. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the specifics. If you open up your folder, you'll see this sheet here. And that's all the steps that myself and our staff take you through. That's the process we go through. We hold your hands all the way through. You really don't have to do very much at all other than, ask questions and go at your own pace. We don't push people. Some of our properties last year or the last couple of years have gone through this whole process in 4 months. There's one other notable property in Point Barrow took a year and a half. So simply because there were some difficult stuff with it. So we will come to your property and we'll do, this is a map of the vegetation communities on a property. We'll come and we'll do inventories and we'll analyze the vegetation that's there. So you'll have a full plant list of the property, full species list. For example, on this property here, there were 5 species at risk inventoried in 4 hours. This doesn't look any very spectacular, but it's this kind of mixed habitat that actually is quite special. and it's a lot more divergent than you would think. And there's a species at risk in that slide, just a couple of words about official plans. I've spent over 20 years fighting for Georgian Bay's official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw, and I think it's a great plan, and the zoning bylaw is great, but there's always pressure on these, and in times with Georgian Bay, we certainly lost some ground on that. And the history, if you look at the history of plants in other parts of North America, in southern Ontario, habitat's lost, and these conservation tools are forever. They're the only tool that really you can walk away and say, okay, in those previous slides, you can say, that land is never going to change. So that's why we're here. If you look at certain areas of Georgian Bay that are being heavily developed, those development areas, Port Severn and Honey Harbor, the town of Honey Harbor, those hamlets need to grow. But there needs to be a balance, and we're the only group, other than the Nature Conservancy, which is sort of our sister in the project, we're the only ones pushing back a bit and giving a tool for people to conserve forever. So that's why I'm here. I want to just give you an example of what can happen and what mankind does do. This is Go Home Bay in 1902, slide taken by my great-grandfather, C.H.C. Wright. This is all logged out. This has all been taken. There's a cottage there. The lucky thing is that nature rebounds if we give her a chance, and if we don't build everywhere, if we don't asphalt everything over. There's the same position. I took that slide last summer from roughly the same position. The cottage is still there, and the trees have come back. So I think, it's a very special place, and I sort of painted a picture for you of why I'm here and so passionate about it. And now Lynn Zillian is going to talk the more exciting part, the tax savings for her. Thank you.